grieving brother uncovers a chilling secret at his sister's funeral, leading him to a mysterious warehouse that holds the key to a buried truth. But as he descends into darkness, he realizes some secrets are better left untouched. James walked into the funeral home with a heavy heart, his mind numb from the loss of his brother. The air inside was cold, still, and smelled faintly of old wood. The funeral director, a thin man with sunken eyes, led James to the back room where rows of coffins were displayed. After a brief, silent walk, the director stopped in front of a particular coffin, pointing at it with a bony finger. "This one," the director said softly, "will do." James hesitated. The inside of the coffin had deep scratches, as though something or someone had tried to claw its way out. The uneasy feeling stayed with James even after he left the funeral home. That night, as he sat in his quiet apartment, his phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen, expecting a message from a relative or a friend offering condolences. Instead, the notification was from an unknown number. "Can't breathe. Dark. Cold." James stared at the message, confused. His immediate thought was, it must be a mistake, a spam message, or someone playing a cruel joke. He deleted it without a second thought. But a few minutes later, his phone buzzed again. "It's tight in here. I'm trapped." A chill ran down his spine. The number was the same, and the message was even more unsettling. He felt a knot form in his stomach as he checked the number again. It was familiar. Too familiar. It was his brother's old number. James stared at the screen, his heart pounding in his chest. There was no way it could be his brother. The phone had been deactivated after his death. He locked the phone and set it aside, convincing himself it was some glitch. But just as he tried to push the thought away, another buzz, and another. "Help me. It's getting darker. Why can't you hear me?" James felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead. He picked up the phone, his hands trembling as he scrolled through the messages, each more disturbing than the last. They described the inside of the coffin, the coldness, the silence, the darkness closing in. He tried calling the number, but the call didn't connect. No ringing, just dead silence on the other end. As he stared at the screen, another message came through. "James, why won't you help me?" The night before the funeral, James could barely sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined his brother trapped inside the coffin, desperately trying to reach out. The messages had stopped, but the silence was worse. It felt like something was waiting. Lying in bed, his phone on the nightstand, he fought the urge to check it again. But just as he started to drift off, the phone buzzed. His heart raced as he grabbed it, already knowing what he would see. The message simply said, "Tomorrow, don't let them bury me." The morning of the funeral was overcast, a thick, heavy fog clinging to the ground. James felt numb as he dressed in his suit, the words from the message repeating in his mind. "Don't let them bury me." He couldn't shake the dread building inside him. At the cemetery, friends and family gathered, their faces somber. As the coffin was lowered into the ground, James's breath quickened. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He froze, his hands trembling. He pulled it out, the screen glowing with a new message. "James, I'm still here." His legs felt weak as he stared at the coffin being buried, dirt piling on top. He wanted to say something, to scream, to stop them. But he stood there paralyzed. One final message appeared on his phone. "Why are you letting this happen?" Days passed, but the weight of the funeral lingered like a dark cloud over James. He couldn't escape the feeling that something was terribly wrong. His phone remained silent, no more messages since the burial. Yet every time he looked at it, he expected the screen to light up again. At night, he was haunted by nightmares of his brother, trapped in the coffin, scratching, pleading to be freed. The guilt gnawed at him relentlessly. He wondered if it had all been a cruel trick of his mind, or if he had truly ignored his brother's final cries for help. The cemetery was always eerily silent at night, with only the rustle of leaves and the occasional hoot of an owl to break the stillness. Emily had grown used to it in her months working as a gravedigger, though the isolation never quite felt normal. This evening, after a late burial, the quiet seemed heavier, more oppressive. She lingered by the grave, staring at the freshly turned earth, feeling a strange unease creep up her spine. As she started to pack up her tools, a muffled sound, almost like a whisper, reached her ears from deep below the ground. Emily paused, her heart racing as the soft whispering intensified, echoing from the grave she had just filled. She shook her head, convincing herself it was just the wind playing tricks on her. Yet the sounds persisted, faint but distinct, like someone trying to speak from beneath the earth. With a hesitant breath, she approached the grave, squinting into the darkness. "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling. Silence answered, followed by another muffled plea, this time clearer and more urgent. The realization sent a chill through her. Someone might be buried alive, and she was the only one there to help. Emily's heart raced as the whispers grew louder, an agonizing blend of fear and confusion gripping her. The chilling sound echoed in her mind, each muffled word twisting her stomach. What if someone was truly trapped beneath the earth, fighting for breath? She knelt beside the grave, her hands trembling as she brushed away the soil. "Please, if someone is down there, I'm here," she shouted, her voice breaking. The whispers seemed to respond, rising and falling like the desperate breaths of a trapped soul. "Help me! Help me!" Panicking, Emily scrambled to her feet, glancing around the empty cemetery, her breaths quickening. No one else was there to hear the cries for help. The chilling reality sunk in. She needed to act. With a resolve that surprised her, she rushed to the shed for her tools, determination driving her to uncover the truth hidden beneath the earth. With a shovel clutched tightly in her hands, Emily returned to the grave, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The moon cast eerie shadows across the cemetery, creating an unsettling atmosphere. She hesitated for a moment, doubts flooding her mind. Was she really going to disturb a grave? But the whispers called to her, a haunting melody of desperation. Gritting her teeth, she plunged the shovel into the earth. Each scoop felt heavier, the soil resisting her efforts as if trying to keep its secret buried. She dug faster, fueled by the chilling thought that someone might be trapped just inches away. As the hole deepened, the whispers intensified, morphing into a frantic chorus. "Help me! Let me out!" they cried, chilling Emily to her core. Sweat dripped from her brow as she finally struck something hard. She gasped, realizing she had uncovered the lid of a coffin, and her heart raced with dread. With trembling hands, Emily brushed away the dirt from the coffin lid, revealing its polished surface, gleaming ominously under the moonlight. As she pried it open, her heart raced, and her breath caught in her throat. The coffin was empty. Panic surged through her, twisting her stomach into knots. The whispers faded into a deafening silence, replaced by the unsettling realization that something was terribly wrong. She peered inside, searching for any sign of what had happened, but found only an unsettling emptiness. Emily stepped back, dread pooling in her gut, as she realized she had uncovered a mystery far more sinister than she ever imagined. As dawn broke, Emily stumbled back to the cemetery, her mind racing with questions. The empty coffin haunted her thoughts, and she felt an overwhelming urge to uncover the truth. To her shock, a new grave had appeared overnight, freshly dug and marked with a simple wooden cross. A chill ran down her spine as she approached, the soil still loose and dark. Emily hesitated, knowing she had to confront whatever darkness lingered in this cursed ground. Her heart raced with each step, her pulse echoing the whispers that now seemed to call from the depths below. John had grown accustomed to the sterile chill of the morgue. Each day, he processed the unclaimed bodies, meticulously logging their details in a worn ledger. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows that danced along the cold, tiled floor. His co-workers often joked about the silent company he kept, but John found comfort in the routine. Yet today felt different. As he moved through the familiar corridors, a sense of unease crept in, like a whisper in the back of his mind. The morgue was always quiet, but today it held a heavy silence, as if something awaited him. John approached the steel table where the latest unclaimed body lay. The man was middle-aged, with graying hair and a face that showed signs of distress even in death. As John prepared to document the details, he noticed something peculiar. The body seemed to shift slightly, as if adjusting to an unseen force. He blinked, convincing himself it was just a trick of the light. Yet every time he looked away, he felt that the corpse was in a different position, more contorted, as though it were trying to escape the confines of its resting place. Sweat prickled at the back of his neck as he moved closer to inspect. His heart raced as he noticed the corpse's eyes, a deep, haunting gaze that seemed to follow him. "It's just my imagination," he muttered, but deep down, a chilling thought surfaced. What if this body wasn't as lifeless as it appeared? As the days passed, John couldn't shake the unsettling feeling surrounding the body. Each time he entered the morgue, he felt an invisible weight pressing down on him. He started to hear faint sounds echoing through the sterile room, soft thuds, like a heart beating just beneath the surface. At night, he lay awake, haunted by nightmares of the corpse reaching out, begging for release. Each morning, he dreaded returning to work, his mind racing with thoughts of what lay beneath the cold metal. Was he losing his grip on reality, or was something truly sinister happening? The day of the burial arrived, and John felt a heavy knot in his stomach. He stood at the edge of the grave, surrounded by co-workers and curious townsfolk, all there to witness another unceremonious farewell. The sky was gray, mirroring his mood, and the air felt thick with unease. As the workers lowered the coffin into the ground, John's heart raced. He couldn't shake the image of the corpse shifting in its final resting place. He glanced at the casket, a cheap wooden box, and felt an inexplicable urge to check inside. Just then he heard it, a faint tapping sound echoing from beneath the earth. A shiver ran down his spine. He turned to the crowd, but everyone was distracted, talking among themselves. Ignoring his instincts, he stepped back, forcing himself to focus on the ritual. Yet the sound gnawed at his mind, deepening his dread. That night, John lay in bed, unable to shake the chilling thoughts from the day. As he closed his eyes, the tapping sound echoed in his mind, growing louder and more insistent. It felt as if the very earth beneath him was alive with restless energy. Hours passed, and sleep eluded him. Suddenly, a loud bang jolted him upright. Heart pounding, he grabbed his phone and illuminated the room. The familiar surroundings felt foreign, shrouded in shadows that seemed to dance around him. Then it came, a low, desperate whisper from outside his window. "Help me." It was barely audible, yet it pierced through the night, sending chills through his bones. John rushed to the window, peering into the darkness, but found only silence. Was he losing his mind, or was something truly wrong? As fear settled in, he knew one thing: the haunting had begun, and he was at its center. Nathan stood in the dimly lit funeral home, surrounded by the scent of flowers and the hushed whispers of grieving family members. His grandmother, the heart of their family, lay peacefully in her casket, adorned with her favorite roses. As he looked around the room, He felt a heavy sadness settle over him, mingling with disbelief. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As he glanced at the coffin, a strange odor wafted through the air, one that felt unsettlingly out of place. Trying to ignore it, he focused on the memories he cherished. This was supposed to be a moment of closure, but a nagging unease lingered in his mind. As the service progressed, Nathan's eyes kept drifting back to the coffin. The strange smell grew stronger, a pungent mix of decay and something he couldn't quite identify. His curiosity piqued. He leaned closer during a lull in the eulogies, carefully lifting the edge of the velvet lining. To his shock, he noticed a small tag attached to the side of the coffin. His heart raced as he glanced around, making sure no one was watching. The tag read, "John Doe, unidentified male." Confusion and dread washed over him. This couldn't be right. This coffin was meant for his grandmother, yet it held the remains of someone else. He tried to process what this meant, but panic clawed at his throat. He needed to confirm his suspicions. Without drawing attention, he slipped out of the room, determined to find the funeral director and unravel this disturbing mystery. That night, Nathan couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that clung to him like a shadow. As he drifted off to sleep, the image of the coffin filled his mind, morphing into a nightmarish vision. In his dreams, a figure clawed at the lid from the inside, eyes wide with desperation and silent screams echoing in the darkness. Nathan jolted awake, his heart pounding, the suffocating stench still lingering in his memory. He couldn't help but feel that the dead man in the wrong coffin was trying to reach out to him, urging him to uncover the truth before it was too late. The next morning, Nathan couldn't ignore the gnawing sensation in his gut. Determined to uncover the truth, he returned to the funeral home, asking the staff about the coffin's label. They exchanged uneasy glances before one of the attendants reluctantly revealed that the coffin had been meant for a young man named Alex who had gone missing months ago. His case was closed without answers, the attendant said quietly, but his family never found peace. Nathan's heart raced as he realized the implications. The body in the coffin was supposed to be his grandmother's, yet he felt an urgent need to find out what had happened to Alex. That evening, Nathan returned home and opened his laptop, researching everything he could about Alex's disappearance. The more he delved into the case, the more connections he found, leading him down a dark path that intertwined with his own family's past. The following night, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. As he reviewed his notes on Alex's case, a sense of urgency took hold. He had discovered that Alex had been last seen near an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Something told him the truth lay there. Determined, Nathan drove to the warehouse, the moon casting eerie shadows across the ground. As he stepped inside, he felt a chill run down his spine. The air was thick with silence, broken only by the echo of his footsteps. Suddenly, Nathan heard a soft whisper, "Help me." His heart raced as he followed the sound, leading him to a dark corner. There he found a hidden trapdoor, slightly ajar. Heart pounding, he knew he had to confront whatever lay beneath. This was it, the moment where he could uncover the truth and perhaps lay both Alex and his grandmother to rest. Nathan spent the night tossing and turning, the images of the trapdoor haunting him. Each time he closed his eyes, he was back in that dimly lit warehouse, the whispers echoing in his ears. He could still feel the chill of the air and the weight of the unknown pressing down on him. At dawn, he decided he couldn't ignore the unease any longer. The truth demanded to be faced. With resolve building in his chest, Nathan grabbed his flashlight and headed back to the warehouse, determined to confront whatever lay beneath the surface and to finally find peace for himself and Alex. In a world where grief can cloud our judgment and the truth is often hidden in shadows, we are reminded that uncovering secrets may come with unexpected consequences. The story of a brother searching for answers teaches us that sometimes facing the past can lead to even darker paths. How would you have reacted in such a terrifying situation? Would you have dared to delve deeper, or would you have turned back to protect your sanity? If you want to continue this haunting journey and explore what lies beneath the surface, click the video on the screen now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more chilling tales and mysteries that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Thank you for watching, and remember, some truths are better left buried.